Hey, what's up, Giants fans? Welcome to another episode of Giants Talk. I'm Cole Kuiper here with Giants insider Alex Pavlovic. The Giants lose another one in Cleveland, the sixth straight losing series. We'll talk about that, but do our best to keep it positive. Otherwise, I might drive myself insane. Let's dive into Giants versus Guardians. But first, Giants Talk is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Save up to $1,200 on the best mattresses at the Mancini's Sleep World Labor Day sale. And that's backed by the 365-night comfort guarantee, which gives you a whole year to try your mattress and make sure it's giving you the comfort you deserve. You'll be over the moon with a new mattress from Mancini's Sleep World. All right, Alex. Giants drop another one. This time to a playoff contender, technically, right?
Technically, correct. Yes. I think every road series from now on, just kind of chalk it up.
Yeah.
2 out of 3 every time. So
that's the not sleeping in your own Mancini's effect.
That is. But yeah, their road has not been kind to them.
It has not. Not that home has been that much more kind, but we got an idea from listener Joe to focus on the bright spots.
Yeah, we'll start with the bright spots this time because it's been dark times the last few weeks. Well, the whole season, but I think especially the last few weeks of baseball.
It has. We can't roll out the funeral wagon every single episode of Giants Talk, and there's a lot more baseball to be played and very potentially played poorly. But let's start with what was the biggest, potentially most fun story of the week, and that is the debut of Tugboat Wilkinson, the Giants prospect they got. The Tugboat is here, and I'm going to say did not disappoint in his debut.
He did not. He was exactly kind of what we thought. He 2 innings, 1 hit, 3 pop-ups, stayed off the barrel. I thought he did a nice job of hitting the corners. Obviously, he has to do that because it's 89 to 91, maxed out at 91. But I thought encouraging first outing for him, and it's the one real bright spot I think of this season of where it's gone is we're getting a lot of shots of parents losing their minds over first hit, first inning, first strikeout. So, his parents were really into it as well. The Wilkinsons were having a good time.
The one question I guess everyone's saying is why was he pulled after 2? Obviously, that was he was essentially an opener, a 2-inning opener, a double opener.
I have a theory on this. I think if his nickname were not Tugboat, nobody would have cared that he got pulled after 2 innings.
I think you're not wrong, man.
I'm intrigued. I want to see where this goes. I want to see more of him. I think the floor for him is probably like pretty solid left-handed reliever, given that he throws strikes. He's gotten strikeouts in the minor leagues. He looked awfully comfortable going inside on Kwan and Ramirez and all these guys. He has not been a top prospect. This is not Jackson Flora coming through the minor leagues. So I don't think it's a huge deal that they let him go out there, have a positive feeling the first time out, throw 2 innings. I know he wanted to do more. He's capable of doing more, but be part of a win. Go out there and leave with a good taste in your mouth after 2 innings, and we'll see how they use him this weekend. I do think at some point over the next, 5-6 weeks, they should let him go out there and try to stretch out and see. Well, he's trying to do something that's really difficult, which is like you and I grew up watching guys who do this from the left side, who can be like, here's 89, but I know where it's going. Nobody does that anymore. Like you have Tyler Rogers, the submariner, but like nobody is pitching at that velocity anymore and being successful. So it's an uphill road for him. I think he can do it because he has done it in the minor leagues. But I think it's okay given what he is trying to do in the difficult task ahead of him. That they're like, go get a bunch of lefties early on. There was 3 of them stacked at the top of the lineup, I think.
Yeah.
Go get comfortable. I think everyone lost their minds externally because they're fired up about Tugboat and they're fired up about the memes and they're fired up about the social media stuff. And if I just told you this was, if this was Joe Whitman coming up from the minor leagues and the Giants wanted him to throw 2 innings, I don't think anyone would have cared. So
no, this is, I mean, even if you had said it's Matt Wilkinson, just give him his government name. I'm like, oh, cool. All right. Opener. Hey, we've been asking for that. But you're right. It's the power of branding. I think marketing professionals know a good name goes a long way, and it's done wonders for Tugboat Wilkinson. I will say, Alex, a tugboat does not take a ship across the entire sea, right? It takes it a short distance and then lets it go the rest of the way on its own. I mean, I don't know anything about tugboats. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but there, 2 innings.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny. I mean, like seeing the reaction was like overwhelmingly everyone's annoyed about everything now, but like overwhelmingly annoyed that he was pulled after 2. Yeah. I was like, it's okay. It's his big league debut. Let's, he wasn't, I mean, it was up and down in AAA. And again, I'm not knocking him. I think I'm really intrigued to see where this goes, but I think it's okay for them to settle him in that way. And I don't think they've done a great job in general this year with kind of figuring out how to line guys up. But in this case, I thought they really found a nice soft landing spot for him, and he nailed it, and everything went well. And it's like, okay, get him out of there, and let's see what the next one is. And I do think, like, I mean, just naturally, like, there's going to be, whether it's Landon Roop innings limits or Logan Webb being shut down at the end of the year because there's really no reason for him to pitch probably the last week or two or whatever. Carson Wisenhunt needing a breather. There will be starts out there, and there will be days where he can go longer. But I thought this was totally fine, and I thought it was it was encouraging, and he got out there, and now he gets to prepare for the next one.
Well, that 2 innings ended up being a kickoff to an absolute collaborative pitching gem. The Giants going Wilkinson, Hauser, and Smith for 0 runs, shutting out the Guardians in really the only palatable game of this series. So let's give some love to Adrian Hauser, who really flourishing in this starter but not starter role.
I mean, he comes out throwing 97, 98. His 4 hardest pitches of the season were in that 3rd inning when he came in for Wilkinson. I don't know. I have a lot of questions about Adrian Hauser's season. It's a very strange season. He now, if you go back his last 11 games, he has a 1.50 ERA. Like, that's pretty big sample size at this point. And he really has been a bulk innings guy in those games, and generally has been giving them 3, 4, 5 innings. It's very confusing, why they never tried an opener early on. I think there's some, I don't think he loves an opener. I don't
think any starters do, right?
No starter does. I don't think he wanted to do that. I'm also equally confused why, if there's 98 in the back pocket and this bullpen's horrible, no one ever just said, hey, what if Adrian Hauser throws the 8th inning tonight? Yeah. And just let him, air it out. Again, I don't think he wants to be a reliever. I do also think this goes maybe in the category of, like, kind of just have to tell him that's his job probably at some point. He's made it very clear he wants to start, but there were other avenues where he could have helped the team earlier than now. And not that they were going to make the playoffs because of that, but just he's kind of just been like in the wilderness for the last couple months. And you look at his game log, he almost exclusively pitches in games that they lose the last couple months. Now, this one worked out well. And I do think it's weird now because he's pitched so well that if he does want to start, you probably should let him start 2 or 3 games and see, like, is he a good starter?
I pulled this stat from his Baseball Reference. This year, batters against him have an 845 OPS when he's a starter and a 550 OPS when he's a reliever. So it's working. Even if that includes, starter when there's an opener, but it's working. Avoid that first time through.
Yeah, I just, his current role is not a role unless you're.
Well, that's fair.
Unless you're committing next year to which I would be fine with if they're committing to having an opener ahead of him next year and doing something where, him and Wilkinson is a great combo in that situation. Yep. But we know that they're not going to commit to that for next year because that's not what they want to do with the rotation spot. And teams don't do that generally coming into the season anyway. So he's neither a starter or a reliever. He's just kind of this bulk innings guy. I don't think he's happy. I don't think they've really determined what he is going into 2027. And I also don't think, I see some people were tweeting at me like, is he raising his trade value? Like, at some point, if someone wants to trade for the $11 million left on his deal, if that's your end goal here, he needs to start games because they're going to want to make sure. To your point, like people can see these numbers as well and be like, well, are most of these just you coming in late? This one worked out where they won, but is most of this like Giants are down by 3 runs and you come in and just air it out from the
hold on.
Yeah, so it's a weird one. I think his whole season's weird. There's 5 weeks left. They should probably like commit to something here. And I think honestly, I think that's letting him start for 2 or 3 weeks and seeing, is this guy who showed up throwing 98 in the first inning on Tuesday and Wednesday? I lost track of, it's been a long week, but those red eyes, man, they mess you up. But is this guy for real, or is he headed back to the bullpen? And in that case, are you getting him ready to be a reliever next year? I don't know what he is going into next season.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. The third piece of that shutout against the Guardians was Dylan Smith. Came in 2 innings, 5 strikeouts, just blowing past Guardians batters, and then got the big highlight reel, at least for Giants social media accounts, moment of getting Bailey at the end of the game. Good for him. Also a reminder of why Bailey was traded. That bat was not electric. But hey, the moment is still there.
He had a decent series at the plate. He did all right. It was funny. They're saying on the, even Dave saying on the broadcast, like the one thing Patrick Bailey does is kind of come through in these big moments. But I think the bigger story there is Dylan Smith, who was acquired in a cash deal. One thing you and I have talked about over and over and over again is that there are different avenues to rebuild the bullpen, and this is one of them. Mm-hmm. Get a guy in here, change the scenery. Got him in a deal that no one really paid attention to because it was kind of the side piece of Tyler Fitzgerald and Luis Matos and everything going on at the beginning of the year roster-wise and much bigger things roster-wise. And they got this guy, Dylan Smith, who I think for the most part, I mean, he's had a few bad ones on the road and been walked off a few times, but I think it's been really encouraging. And like if you're power ranking guys who you feel comfortable with going into the offseason, like he's probably number 1 at this point in terms of relievers. Like if Randy Rodriguez is number 1, but like in terms of guys who are active right now, 5 strikeouts. And I think the one thing we've seen from him, just going back to when he first really was given an opportunity in Chicago that one time, and then the next week, is he's pretty fearless. So I'm encouraged. This is a real bright spot. The biggest bright spot for me really coming out of this series is seeing what he was able to do for 2 innings and how comfortable he looked in a tough spot.
I guess looking back at the whole series, it's really the bullpen overall that was the story. You can count all 3 of the pitchers in game 2 as the bullpen, but first game, Wisenhunt coughs it up early, but then Harris and San Martin, nothing, just keep knocking them down. Roop kind of blows it up on Thursday. Then Henges, Carson Seymour, Brubaker, nothing earned, although, obviously bringing in some of Roop's runs. But for as big of an issue as the bullpen's been all year, this was kind of a feel-good series for the bullpen.
Yeah, and, Trent Harris is going to have an ugly ERA all year because his first outing was really rough.
Mm-hmm.
But he strikes guys out, and this is the most simplistic thing in the world. The Giants do not have a lot of guys who strike guys out at that rate. Mm-hmm. And it's not 98, but I think he's really interesting when you sit down and watch him. He knows what he's doing. He's moving the ball around. He's cutting it in on guys. He's throwing different pitches. He might be a little late. He's quickly elevating, I think, our list of guys who we're watching late in the year here. I'm like, yeah, there's something there with this Trent Harris. Like it's one thing they're missing in this bullpen is just those guys who can get strikeouts when they have to.
Yeah. You have it here. His last 3 appearances, he struck out more than half of the 19 batters he's faced. Yeah. So just silver lining. The bullpen is the story. And then the other minor story is Willy Adames back from his non-IL injury stint. He hits career home run number 200, but it really has me thinking maybe he should be resting more often. I mean, he came back looking fresh. We think back to 2021 when all the older players got basically every day off they could ever want and had career years. This is a point of evidence if he needs to have that conversation with his manager. I guess the other way around, if his manager needs to have the conversation with him that, hey, maybe resting should be in the cards more.
I won't harp on this too much because we do it quite often, but very clearly the main thing Tony needs to work on going the next year is just a little bit more fire, I guess, in terms of telling these guys when they're resting. And, that goes to something like I don't think Adrian Hauser has made it a secret that he's not thrilled with his role, but like that also is the manager's job to call him in and be like, this is the role you're in. So, it's your job to say, Willie, you need more days off early in the year. Now, he got 4 games off here and 6 days off total. But there is also an element of this one, like, most teams would put that guy in the IL, and Giants never considered it. So, ultimately works out because he comes back and contributes at the plate. Now, the defense, put a little pin in this. I believe this is an off-season discussion for us and something you and I have talked about quite a bit, going back to early, like whatever day it was in like May when you and I were like, well, they have to trade Luis Arias. And there's all these different elements of it going forward. Defense continues to be a little rough, but I think that's more of a future conversation.
Yeah, we will. That certainly will dive into that in the offseason. I know you've already mentioned that at some point, a player like Willy Adames transitions to DH. What does that mean for the construction of this team later in his career? But you know what? That's an issue for 2028 Giants talk to tackle.
Or there will be I mean, if Joshua Gonzalez is going to get 3 hits every night, we might be tackling that sooner than we ever thought. But
fair.
That is an issue for down the line. But the 200th homer is a positive, but also some iffy defense.
Yeah. Also marks his 20th homer of the year. Giants dropped the series in Cleveland. Once again, wins don't super matter at this point for Giants talk. Would be nice to be winning series. Would be nice to finally get their first sweep. Also, because of the East Coast games, you probably didn't have to deal with this, Alex, but I keep track the score a good amount when I'm at work based on my phone. And for some reason, it had the teams transposed this whole series. So I checked in on my phone and thought the Giants were up, 7-1 on Tuesday. Very disappointing to turn the game on and at the end and see how it closes out.
You were hyped.
Yeah.
Very, very minor complaint, but the MLB app a couple years ago was a little more usable. So very minor thing.
It's probably way better at scraping your data for profitable purposes than it used to be.
It tried to offer me betting lines today. So
no.
Where we're headed. But
that is like dystopian that we're at that point with the official Major League Baseball app.
Used to be a lot easier to find like the schedule and whatnot. Anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
Maybe. No, I'm sure. It's all going to get much better next year. Roster moves the Giants have made. First up, Keaton Wynn on the IL with elbow neuritis.
It's been a thing this year, the neuritis.
I was going to say, I've heard the word neuritis more times in the past year than the rest of my life times 10.
I think more neuritis on the IL this year than every other year of my career covering him combined. But he hasn't really quite looked the same since he went 3 straight and went on the IL. He hasn't been as sharp. The velo hasn't been there. I saw a great tweet from Jeff Young today, just literally pinpointing when he got hurt, and you can see the velocity is straight downwards. Now, it's a long season, and some of that might be part of that, but I don't know. I think at this point, probably there's certain guys like Joel Peguero has once again re-injured his hamstring for what feels like the 7th time. And you start looking up here and you just kind of go like, all right, I think it's time to get some guys to the offseason. So
Yeah.
guys like to throw at the end of the year and maybe feel like they're healthy going into the offseason. But, remember, Keaton was not a reliever really until this spring. So it's been I thought it was really promising early and just never quite got to where I think they wanted to get. But he'll be in the mix next year if this is important this year.
Get him healthy this offseason. We'll see him next year when he hopefully can contribute in a more meaningful way. The other non-update, I guess, the opposite of an update, we didn't get an update, is Marcelo Meyer not seeming like he's going to travel to Boston for the revenge series we were hoping for. Tugboat got his little revenge series, but this would have been a good storyline to follow. Instead, it's going to be all eyes on Devers.
Yeah, it's this one's been a little foggy the whole time, but did sound like, what Tony told reporters in Cleveland sounded like maybe Monday at home is more likely.
Yeah.
I don't understand, but that's a lot of this season. So
yeah, fair. We've got mailbag questions from listeners. We've obviously got a memory about Mike Krukow, and we're going to preview a lengthy section on Giants heading to Boston to take on the Red Sox. But before we go any further on Giants talk, this show is presented by Mancini Sleep World. And you can save up to $1,200 on top cooling mattresses like Casper, Helix, and Tempur-Pedic. Plus, Beauty Sleep Queen mattresses starting at $299 and 0% financing on Tempur-Pedic starting at $29 a month. That's all backed by the 365-night comfort guarantee, which gives you a whole year to try your mattress and make sure it's giving you the comfort you deserve. You'll be over the moon with a new mattress from Mancini Sleep World. All right, Alex, our first mailbag question today is from Jeffrey. Jeffrey says, revisiting the Devers-Harrison trade, at the time, were the Giants happy that they traded Harrison over trading Birdsong? At the time, I believe that Birdsong was pitching better and had a higher perceived ceiling than Harrison given his injury. I'm curious if the Giants could have gotten Devers with Birdsong in that deal instead of Harrison.
I remember from the time that the ask being Bryce Eldridge and coming down there. So I think that was the initial conversation. And I don't know. I think Harrison was the main guy there. Now, obviously, he got traded, but we talk about this a lot. Remember, Kyle Harrison was the best left-handed pitching prospect in baseball like 2.5 years ago. So he was very highly thought of, and Hayden Birdsong was more of a bit of a draft steal.
Yeah. Next question here is from Giants baseball commenter. Why hasn't the Giants shaken up the bullpen more, like moving on from Brubaker and Henges despite their struggles? I believe this one also came with the note that the Giants bullpen management feels like a personal attack on fans, which, come on, guys.
Aren't we all Giants baseball commenters?
Yeah, this could have come from any one of us.
Could have been anything. I was a little surprised they didn't trade Brubaker, but I'm sure they would have if there was a.
Yeah, they got nibbles.
Yeah, they trade 6 guys off their big league roster. I'm sure if there was a reasonable trade there or anything, they would have done that. He's probably not going to be in this roster next year, just given how many other guys can do that more role. So whatever. He's been fine this year. He's filling innings right now for the most part. The Henges thing, I do think like one thing we really underrate is how difficult shoulder surgery is, and it is a more difficult recovery than Tommy John. And it takes longer for guys now to come back. I mean, think about Reggie Crawford and the complications he has had. And you see Henges and Jason Foley, and this was, one of the flaws in the offseason was that it's not unusual to count on injured guys, but shoulders take a while. And the Giants knew that, and I think they were hoping they'd hit a little bit. And Henges has been fine. His ERA is at 3. It's good strikeout rate. Walk rate is high. But I think that probably is related to him coming off of shoulder surgery. So I think the key thing for me is he is under team control for next year. And they traded Eric Miller. I mean, look, Henges hit 98 today. Like everybody seemed to be a little feeling good in that Cleveland humidity. But it's a good arm there. It's somebody who has a lot of success in the big leagues prior to getting hurt. I know Cleveland, they thought Stephen Vogt thought extremely highly of him, was like, could not have been more complimentary this spring at the media day of just Giants are going to be really happy with this guy. I don't think it's been a bad year by any means. I know the inherited runner sometimes, and he comes into these spots and hasn't been great about getting out of them, but it's a guy who potentially is part of the fix next year. And I think the key thing for him is like getting further away from shoulder surgery. And same with Jason Foley. I mean, it's just been really difficult to both those guys. It took a long time just for their velocity to come back. So I think that's the key here, is like not giving up on guys who can be part of the fix next year when they are like 100%.
Do you think some of these bigger, like just like massive giant of guys sometimes have a tougher time coming back from a surgery like that? I think back to, obviously, Bumgarner's not as big as Henges, but he never really looked the same after his shoulder thing. I just think about how much, I don't know, how much more weight that arm is carrying around than another arm.
It's a good point. I don't think people know how big Sam Henges is.
He is massive.
Is bigger than Bryce Eldridge. So
yes.
We're talking a lot of moving parts here, and a guy who has, missed a lot of time, had not pitched since 2024 before this. But you go back his Cleveland years, I mean, 3.04 ERAs last year, 3.61, 2.32 in 2022. Well over a strikeout per inning. So I think there's a good arm in there and somebody who can potentially be part of the fix next year. And it should be arbitration, so it should be pretty cheap. And remember, Eric Miller's gone. And
yeah,
like San Martin is, I don't know that he's a late inning guy, so they need someone from the left side.
Next question is from Ray. Ray says, who else is still eligible for the Wall of Fame? Timmy, Bumgarner, Webb? I assume they'll go on someday, but what about near misses? Longoria, Yastrzemski, Rogers, Wilmer, Slater, Jonathan Sanchez, Gregor Blanco, and all-stars with 5 partial seasons: Johnny Cueto, Camilo Doval, Elliot Ramos, etc. I feel like we talked about this a little bit on our Wall of Fame episode, and we credited a Twitter or X user with pulling the list of, was it Timmy, Bumgarner, Webb, and Cueto currently qualifying?
I think it was Cueto and then Doval and Ramos.
Okay.
So, and I believe we were uninspired.
Yeah. Like, as fun as, I mean, we said we'd love to see Johnny Cueto back for a ceremony just because he's always such great content.
Yeah. It's tough with guys like Yaz and Wilmer Flores. Like, they were fan favorites and a big part of, one of the best teams in franchise history, at least regular season teams. But there's also like not a whole lot of like it doesn't quite stack up to.
No.
You look at the other guys, and sometimes you're going a little bit lower down the line, but you look at the other guys on that wall in the Embarcadero, it's guys who won championships, it's guys who were multi-time All-Stars, who won MVPs, Cy Youngs. It's a bit of a stretch when you go beyond, I think, like Timmy and Bum, who whenever they want to do it will get in, and Logan Webb. And I think beyond that, it gets to be a bit of a stretch. And like, okay, how many are we just going to honor everybody because you need ceremonies? So
just to remind listeners, the criteria for the Wall of Fame is you have to hit one of the 4 following stats: at least 5 seasons as a Giant with at least 1 All-Star game selection during those 5 seasons, or at least 9 seasons as a Giant even without an All-Star, or at least 3 seasons as a Giant and 3 All-Star selections, or being part of the 3 World Series rings in 5 years. So those are lofty. I'm trying to think if anyone hits that second one, 9 seasons, no All-Stars, but just like a good hang.
I would give Yaz a slight break because he would have been an All-Star in 2020 if there was an All-Star game.
That's a great point.
But it is still just from the letter of the law.
Yeah, and this does feel like a letter of the law thing. And like you said, after we have our fun with the ceremony and do the whole celebration, then these guys are up there next to absolute Giants legends forever.
Yeah, it's the solution here is just have actual like superstars. So
Or I will float a solution you and I talked about a few weeks ago, which is give me a second wall over on the other side of McCovey Cove over in China Basin. That's like the wall of good Giants. I want to see Yaz over there. Give me Alex Dickerson over there. There's more opportunities to celebrate guys without putting them on the podium next to Pablo Sandoval, future Tim Lincecum, Buster Posey, etc.
Yeah, it's I think in my head I have a pretty clear dividing line, but no offense to anybody.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Eddie says, how does a lockout affect the development of prospects?
Yeah, I think another thing we've talked about quite a bit is guys on the 40-man potentially not being able to play early next year, and minor league baseball is a different bargaining agreement, so they should be in normal shape. It certainly has played into some roster moves, I think, around baseball. It will for the next few weeks, but it's not great for anybody. I mean, this is a little bit like COVID, where they did the alternate site and they were able to replicate a lot, but you are missing potentially, like, you look at this group of top prospects. I think the main thing they're probably missing is next spring, whenever spring training happens, it's most likely going to be a sprint. And like similar to last time, when literally I think it was like the lockout ended on like a Wednesday or something, whatever it did, it was like, okay, pitchers and catchers report in 48 hours. It was just straight, like, get ready for the season, as opposed to, the real value of Jackson Flora and Joshua, Johnny Level and Gavin Keelan getting to spend a lot of time in the clubhouse and a lot of time on drills and soak up a lot of time in that first month when the veterans are kind of taking it a little bit slower. Like that's probably where this is going to hurt them the most, but also they're going to be able to play, so they should be okay.
Next question is from Eduardo. Was going with an aggressive contact offensive philosophy a big mistake? It's almost hard to draw this few walks without an ingrained philosophy that clearly has permeated the entire offense.
Yeah, clearly something in the offseason they talked about. They go and get Hunter Mentz from Toronto. They led the majors in batting average. They go and get Luis Arias, and Buster talks about it. We've seen what they've done in the draft. We've seen what they've done at the deadline with like Gavin Keelan, Jesus Rodriguez, guys like this. I will say they are 22nd in walk rate in the second half, which is still not great, but it's not historically bad. So there's been some improvement, and certain, Devers has improved his rate over the course of the year, and some of these guys who have come up, Eldridge has been good in that department, certainly. I think the bigger thing for them is this is really, for me, kind of a personnel thing. I think more than hitting approach and more than what Hunter Mentz might be having them do. I mean, they had a lineup with Luis Arias and Jung-Hoo Lee who have a very specific style.
And that style does not involve walks.
Does not. Casey Schmidt does not walk. Like, very notably does not walk. Suzak, not a huge walker. And then you have other guys. Adames was down year over year. Devers is down year over year. I don't know that overall I view it as much as, like, I think it's hard to change older players for the most part. I don't view it as like an organizational shift at the big league level. I think they definitely have a view of what they want from prospects. But for me, this was just kind of the makeup of what ended up being the lineup. And part of that being a lot of Arias, a lot of Jung-Hoo Lee, a lot of Casey Schmidt, and then some other guys get, their walk rate lowers. And all of a sudden you look up and it's like, oh, this team just never walks.
Yep.
So I think that was probably more of it than taking an aggressive philosophical change.
All right, couple more. Next one from Michael. Michael says, I saw the Mariners had an alumni home run derby. Any chance of the Giants having one? I will say, I think I also saw, who was it? The Brewers had themselves a home run derby against the Mariners.
You and I have had this conversation before because Milwaukee did this a year or two ago, and we were like, Giants, steal this idea. Go do it. The Mariners stole the idea. Seems to have worked. So Giants.
Well, I meant more the Mariners just scored 22 runs the Brewers just scored 22 runs on the Mariners. But yes, the Brewers did also do an actual alumni home run derby.
Yeah, they've had both. But yeah, I think this is an idea that every team should. Well, there's probably some teams that it wouldn't be as fun, but
So who
for the Giants,
who do you imagine would participate? I mean, I think Pablo Sandoval would get out there and swing. Pat Burrell in khakis, no problem. See if you can get Madison Bumgarner out there. This would be a blast.
It'd be a lot of fun. Hunter Pence, I'm sure, could jump out there and do it right now. Yeah, they really have a lot of options. So there should be really, I think, something in the next, like, I don't know, maybe when they do they start celebrating further anniversaries of these title teams, but they also don't want guys to get too old.
Yeah, maybe this is something you could maybe not do in 2028 or 2028 as part of the All-Star festivities, but kind of fold into that, like pre-season. Hey, we're hosting the All-Star game this year. We're doing a home run derby. It would be so much fun.
Yeah, steal the idea, Giants.
Yeah, I think we can get behind this. And then one more. Tyler says, how is it possible that Dwayne and Mike haven't been in an MLB The Show game as legends, both beloved by Giants, but both had good seasons in other cities as well? I feel like they're no-brainers since they're similar to Keith Hernandez, John Kruk, Jeff Conine, and so many others. Alex, do you play baseball video games at all?
I specifically played the one that Dwayne and Mike were recalling because it was
the one 20 years ago.
Yeah, like 2000, probably 04, 05.
Yeah, that's about when I stopped playing them as well. In my understanding now, they're just kind of like bleed money out of you simulators.
Yeah,
nickel and diming you for microtransactions. But that being said, the new games have like older players in them as legends that are playable. I think I obviously have no inside information about this, but it would be very cool if they could get recognized like that, Tyler. Maybe a Ford Frick Award would grease the wheels a little for getting them into something like that.
It would. I would love to do it. I don't know if they still have home run derbies in video games, but I would love to pick Dwayne Kuiper and just go for it.
That's a great point because a lot of these legends they pick for this kind of thing, are like Ricky Henderson, Albert Pujols. They're rated 95, 98. Dwayne Kuiper would be like a solid 80 legend, like the lowest rated legend on the Legends lineup.
Oh, he could break up double play. I've seen the videos.
That's right, he can. I have not played one of these new games. I play a lot of like weird indie games. So maybe I'll pick up MLB The Show and tool around with it a little.
Yeah, figure it out.
Yeah. And then let's do this episode's Mike Krukow memory. This one from Vinny. Vinny says, my dad took me to a game when I was 10 years old. He somehow got tickets in the club section right below the press box. My family were strictly upper deck and bleachers creatures. These seats were a rare treat. I loved Kruk and Kuip as a kid, still do, so we camped out by the door to the press box in case we can meet one of them. Kruk walked out, and even though we had to be going on air in about 20 minutes, spent the time to make 10-year-old me feel like the most important person at Pac Bell Park. He called me a gamer, signed my book, and we talked ball. I still wanted to play professionally at that point, but that conversation made me think the on-air route could work for me too. And it did. I spent 7 years as a minor league play-by-play guy, and part of that was thanks to Kruk. Listening to the rest of the Giants crew didn't hurt either.
Look at that.
Mike out there changing hearts, inspiring people.
Setting career paths.
No, that's a great story, Vinny. And it's extra special beyond, we get so many just like, I loved them. They talked to me and they were nice, but knowing there was a tangible impact on someone's life is super cool.
That was a good one.
Yeah. All right. There's our mailbag questions and memories for today's episode. If you have a question for Giants Talk, go ahead and send it to Alex or myself, wherever you can find us on social media, and we will add it to our list to address in an upcoming episode. Before we wrap up today, let's take a look at Giants versus Boston as the team heads to Fenway to take on the Red Sox. Boston is 68-59, putting them at third place in the American League East and third place in the American League total.
I am here.
You're there already. I'm hopping on a red eye soon. I've got the town queued up to watch on my phone on the flight, and I'm ready to go.
I've had one lobster roll already, so
Ooh.
we're in good shape.
All right.
I stopped by. Well, I passed by a Dick's Sporting Goods on the way to dinner, and Adley Rutschman was signing autographs inside, so we're
Wow.
ready to go. I did not
Okay.
go inside, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited. Should be a there will be some storylines at the very least. I kind of forgot about the flip side of this too, is that the Giants will see Eric Miller at some point.
That's right. Old friend Eric Miller. Really the only of the former friends, though.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, but we'll
None
see
of the former friends traded for Devers are still there.
No, but I think we always kind of, sometimes we forget about him when we discuss it. We all discuss the Meyer part of that, but Eric Miller spent a lot of time on the Giants and is now a big part of that bullpen.
Yeah, I did check in to see kind of the web of the guys the Giants traded for Devers, where they are now, what they got flipped for. So real quick, Kyle Harrison was packaged for Caleb Durbin, who now is one of the Red Sox star players, putting together 3.5 WAR on the season, which would be close to leading the Giants. Andrew Monasterio, 1.5 WAR, and then a pick that they ended up getting their now number 8 prospect. Jordan Hicks was packaged for number 17 prospect Gage Zeal, which seems like a swindle. And then on the flip side of that, James Tibbs packaged for Dustin May, which was an absolute disaster, both for the Red Sox and for the Giants by proxy.
Yeah, look, we had some jokes early in the year, but they ended up okay in the Harrison trade, I think. So
yeah,
I mean, Kyle's been very good, but Caleb Durbin's been a huge part of this run they've gone on this summer.
Mm-hmm. What do we have pitching matchup wise?
We have good one on Friday, Logan Webb versus Sonny Gray. Saturday is Wade Tidwell versus Patrick Sandoval, and then Sunday is TBD versus Jake Bennett. A couple lefties, I believe, for the Red Sox. So Jonah Cox weekend probably. But yeah, Friday will be the marquee game here, and obviously Devers' return and
Sonny Gray is absolutely dealing, right? Like is he in Cy Young conversation?
Yeah, he's been really good. So that's a big time matchup.
All right. Very nice. And then obviously, yeah, like you said, all eyes pointed at Rafael Devers. You're already there. You said you're having a lobster roll. Have you taken a look at what's going on at Fenway food wise? Anything incoming fans need to know about?
I think you just sent me a bunch of like lobster poutine and things like that. So
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see how deep we go here.
The Fenway does lobster poutine in a cool boat, just like the Seattle gimmick, which I have not done, so I'm very into that. I'll try that. But they got all the classic New England options. And then you can't indulge in this, but I've heard the Bleacher Bar across the street is supposed to be an awesome pregame spot, like a must check off the list. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I mean, here's my thing. Like, I'm obviously a ballpark food guy and try to help people as much as I can. I do sometimes draw the line at ballpark seafood. So,
wow, crab sandwich is like the most famous thing at Oracle Park.
Yeah, crab sandwich is like a grilled. You're probably in pretty good shape there. But some of the options here, we'll see. The boat might be sitting out there for a while. Some seafood on there, so we got to examine it first. This isn't quite like having a hot dog at the ballpark.
We'll see how Cole feels after 3 days of nothing but seafood in Yuengling, and we'll go ahead and see what kind of podcast that makes for.
We'll check in Sunday night.
We'll check in Sunday night. Giants Talk will be back after this series for more. Until then, don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Go ahead and give us a review. Buy Alex's book. Do all the things. We got a month and change left in this season. Yes, Alex.
Quick thing. Marcelo Meyer is not in the lineup tonight in AAA, so maybe he is headed to Boston. We'll see.
Oh, all right. Scrap the episode. We're re-recording.
He should be. Come on.